Hey everybody, this is Perch. I like this mail. I read this mail. I usually, when I get viewer mail, by the way, I don't read through it. I read it in real time with you, so you get to discover it like I do, and it's usually pretty fun to do it that way. But this time I read it ahead of time, so I like this mail. It's a fun mail, and I like the challenging aspect of it. So let's get into all of that. By the way, again thank you for all the comments. Viewer mail. I enjoy, you have questions, I try and answer. It's a fun little thing. I think I've come to the conclusion that my ideal world, in the perfect scenario, I would just have like a 2 hour a day kind of radio show or internet podcast. It's like on the air, you could call in, all that kind of stuff. Just a very traditional kind of show. That's what I would probably desire. That's not what we have here, timing and everything else. I've come to the conclusion that probably the next step for old Perch here is going to be something somewhat different than what probably people are expecting. But we'll see where it gets to it. We'll see. We'll see what all happens. But I doubt I'm going to be doing that show anytime soon. I would be lying if I said my heart was in it. But it would be a fun thing to do. I would enjoy some aspect of that. Sure, why not? All right, let's get into this. It says I don't even want to go into the title here. The mail goes, I would like to start by saying I love your porn theme song sounding music that opens all your videos. Great choice to catch the listener's attention, by the way. How did I do that? I know I went somewhere. It wasn't Fiverr. I went somewhere and I said, make me a theme. And then they made this theme. And that's what we got. I remember that when I did it, I said, make me something that sounds a little bit like Beck, the artist Beck, and Summer Girl. I think that's the song I sent them. I'd like do something kind of like that. And what I got back was nothing like that. But anyway, that's what you're listening to every time this thing opens. So anyway, there you have it. All right, back to the mail. It says, I have watched many of your videos, but they all seem to reinforce my stance that there is really nothing in comics for those who are not already a part of the comic book ecosystem. Okay. I loved Marvel and Image comics back in the 80s and 90s, but listening to your videos kind of reaffirms my belief that there really isn't anything happening in American comics that would interest new readers or even a 40-year-old something former reader that found your videos with the intention of re-entering the weekly American comic book reading industry. Okay, that's fair. As much as I love the nostalgia of happier younger days, consisting of reading Silvestri and Jim Lee X-Men comic books, those days are gone from the American comic book market in present-day iteration. That is true. All right, here comes the tough part. Are you ready for this brutal speak truth to power? I mean, that only works if I actually have power, which I have zero power. But anyway, here comes the truth to power statement, as the kids say. I was wondering if you ever considered that your videos may actually turn off potential new readers from trying American comics. Interesting. The industry drama, as explained in your videos and other comic book YouTubers, reminds me of WWF wrestling in the 90s. It just seems so absurd for those of us watching from the outside. I don't want this email to sound completely negative. I still buy and read comics. However, 99% of them are manga. The idea of a punk rock comic, a freshness of something completely new, can still be found in the pages of comic art storytelling. However, I do not believe it is coming from corporate comics being created by Disney and Warner Brothers. Those comics feel like this new generation's grandparents' popular culture. Ouch. We're going to get more into that in a minute here, but let's keep going for a second. I commend you for the good fight. But isn't it sometimes just easier to tear everything to the ground and just rebuild the industry from the ground up with new comic book creators, properties, and a digital format and distribution? Best wishes. Okay. No, it's not. Now, why isn't it? Because you see that advice a lot of the time. You see people saying things like, hey, why don't everything should burn and we should start it up again? Well, here's the crazy part. If you've ever started a business, if you've ever started something from a dead stop, meaning, if you think about momentum, if you think about a car or a train in motion, something going down the track, something moving, and then you think about the effort and the energy it takes to actually get it moving, to get it, going. what you discover is it's hard work. It's very, very hard to get the momentum going to where things are rolling down the tracks. So people say all the time, like, we should burn it all to the ground and start new. Actually, anybody who's ever run a business, who's put something together successfully, will tell you that's a very inefficient way to go do it. It's it's very hard to get something moving at speed. Even if it's completely toxic, broken, everything else. This is why a lot of people will tell you that if you're going to go open a business, it is better and easier and more efficient to buy a business, even one that's sometimes failing, than start from scratch and buy something new. It's why when you're trying to enter a market, people will give you the advice of, hey, maybe you should go buy your way into that industry, even though you're paying a premium for something that's kind of broken. It's harder. It's far harder to do it that way. Doesn't mean it's impossible. Nothing is, I mean, anything is anything. Nothing is impossible. But it's harder to start from zero. Now, that doesn't play very well with the fuck it all and let it burn to the ground and, let God pick up the pieces kind of crowd. But keep in mind the people who are saying that are not actually creating any kind of business. And when I say that, one person creating a one-man business or, a small thing is one thing. That's an individual kind of somebody making a financial effort, good for them. But if you're actually trying to make a business, it's far easier to take something already in motion and correct it than to burn it all down from the beginning and start new. Now, by the way, I realize it's not exactly what this mail is saying, but I want to react to it because it becomes a challenge. I mean, that's the advice. Just let it all fall apart and then pick up the pieces. But, that's typically pretty bad advice. Now, as to the comment, do I think my channel is actually turning people away from, comics and something? Probably. Yeah, probably. I'll admit it. I don't think a lot of these other people admit it, but I'll admit it. Yeah, I think probably me coming in and talking about some of this bullshit, people having fights with each other, creators arguing, what's going on with this drama of comics. I mean, to me, I get to the source, which is, what do people want out of comics? Well, they want to pick up the comics. They want to enjoy it. They want to read something that feels worthwhile. They want to feel like their money is going somewhere meaningful, and they want to have an experience. If you were to go work today for the Walt Disney Company, and when I say that, I know several of you are like, oh, the woke Walt Disney Company, fuck it. No, hang on. The theme park company, the company that's actually making rides, that his entire existence is built on making an experience that gets people in the mood to pay $100 to $125 a day to gain access to it. How do they build that business? They build it off of experience. They build it off of providing something that feels uniquely, valuable and unusual to people, that give them something where they feel good about the money they spent. They feel good about the time they spent. Fundamentally, that's what comics are. That's what people want. So, quite bluntly, my channel, if I'm coming in here and somebody turns it on, and first of all, if they can get past the shitty audio and the guy recording something while he's driving down the road, if they can get past that, then they're left with kind of the opposite of happy feelings for the comic industry, opposite of feeling like, hey, this is something that I actually want to participate in. This is something where I want to pick up a comic and read it because there's be some fun in there. What's the fun in discussing what a bitch Vita Ayala is, or Teenie Howard? Who gives a shit? Or what a absolute prick it is to deal with Tom King. And make no mistake about it, it sucks to deal with Tom King. I always love when I read somebody who sends me a mail, says something like, I saw Tom King at a show and he was really nice and I had a good time. That actually makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, because the vast majority of mail I get is that Tom King is an absolute prick bastard to deal with, and he sucks the life out of everything. That is the majority of commentary from people who meet him. I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to be this honest, but that is absolutely what people think. I would say that's the general perspective people get out of meeting Donnie Cates, but they rarely get to meet him because he no-shows events on a regular basis. So, there's that. Oh no, Perch, they're not going to like you anymore. Ah, fuck it. We passed that territory some time ago. Look, I want people to buy comics. Not because I have a current store open, although I will have a current store open soon. I know I've been saying that for a while, but one of these days I'll get around to it. Fuck it. I'll get back into that business. Not because I want to sell comics, I do. Not because I want to help people in comics, I do. Some of my closest friends are in comics in various forms. And I found really amazing people who I absolutely will, bend over backwards to try and help support everything else. Some of I will absolutely do a lot for people in comics. I love this industry. I love the people within it. I want to sell comics. I want people to be happy with comics. I want all of those things to be true. So maybe the right answer is what Mumbles has been saying all along, which is delete the channel, because that will help people feel better about comics. This sound like a bit of a cop-out. The problem is, it's not just me who needs to go. It's a lot of people who need to go. A lot of the comic YouTube channels absolutely are leaning into the drama. It's very much like a WWE 90s NWO era, behavior of how comics are working. Totally. And that is broken. It's not right. It's not going to generate business. It's not good for comics. But, here we are anyway. I guess I'm being selfish here because I do enjoy talking. I do enjoy reading your mails. I recently complained. I do these sales analysis videos, and people definitely want them. They say they want them. They say they need them. They have lots of demands around it. And then they are the absolute lowest viewed videos on the channel. And I'm sure somebody pointed out, correctly, and I felt bad for them because they were being honest. The YouTube algorithm is certainly, creating a behavior around how these channels work, but it's fine. Look, I think that at the end of the day, no, you can't burn the comics industry to the ground and build something back up again. Nobody will build it back up. It won't happen. You'll burn it to the ground and then it will just remain burnt, because trying to get something back in motion again from a dead stop is incredibly hard. And anyone who has ever been in business will tell you that, if they're being honest. On the other end, look, is this channel doing more harm than good? Probably. I don't deny it. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope that the fun, rambly kind of shit is good. I hope that somewhere in the midst of all this, you're feeling like there's somebody, meaning me, who does love comics and wants to see them do well and wants to see them perform. And really, look, at the end of the day, I just want to have good stories. Selfishly, I want good things to read. Selfishly, I want some of my friends who have worked really hard in this industry to try and elevate who they are, who try and put out comics, try and make some money. There's nothing shameful or bad about trying to make money, but have tried to, contribute to this thing for our enjoyment. I hope for the best for them, and that's what I want. That's all I want out of comics. I hope that comes through. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes, I mean, talking negativity, and the problem is I could become one of those channels that's like, hey, have you ever wondered who the Inhumans are? Well, let me tell you, they're a bunch of crazy cats who lived on the moon and then once under the water, and they do all kinds of crazy things. Let's get into the history of all the top 10 things you never knew about the Inhumans. I could do that, but I'd have to remove my balls, and I'm attached to those. They're useful. Anyway, I don't know. You tell me. End the channel or not? Thanks for listening.